Welcome. It is a new year with Trademark Endurance right here on Eat, Train, Be Inspired. Coming at you from the Trademark Endurance headquarters in Longmont, Colorado. And this year I wanted to kind of revamp the podcast and start talking, and I've said this before, but I really wanted to start talking about some practical application of spirituality. It's kind of an experiment. It's not something I'm going to talk about forever, but I actually do feel like it's a good time to talk about it. Just with everything that's been going on in the world and kind of consequence and effect of all the crazy times that we've gone through the last couple of years, I feel like the topics that I'm about to present to you are pretty foundational, both for my business and my training philosophy, but also for you as potential clients to come on and hire us as coaches, or hire me as a coach. Well, we have a few topics coming up that are going to be spiritual in nature, but that does not mean that it is for just Christians. I think there's a lot of kind of life advice, really, kind of more on a life coaching level than it is on a sport coaching level. But there are some basic principles that really stretch across all of humanity, and that's what I'm looking to capture and trying to explain in some sort of construct to get the idea across. And I don't think that there's any better way than to just teach it how I know it, and let you guys either accept it or not for yourselves, just like any advice I might give. But I hope that it's helpful. So those episodes will be coming up. I just recorded an episode with our very first guest, so it's in post-production now, and I think you guys are really going to like that one. It was very insightful and very helpful, and hopefully that's what all of these spiritually based episodes will do, or even more, even socially based for some of them. I'm looking down the list of topics. So for about the next month or two, you can expect to see one of those episodes drop, and then we're going to jump back in as the cycling season really gets underway, to more advice on how to become a better cyclist. And of course, we do more than that here. We take on the full range of endurance sports. So we'll have to bring up some more topics that'll be more physical health based at that point. But just to get some consistency down, just to be talking about something new, something that other coaches don't address, I'm going to be addressing it. Let's talk about first when to hire a coach and when to not. This is something that's been on my mind as well, and it's actually probably a starting point, because this is a new year. You've got resolutions that you want to take care of. You want to reach these new goals, and I don't want to leave you behind. I don't want to leave you hanging. I want to be there for you and be the help that a coach is supposed to be. I feel like the very first thing I need to talk about is when to hire a coach and when not to hire. It's a new year. We have got new goals. Here at Trademark Endurance, our goal is to build our client base, and we want to help you. So there's no time like the present to talk about it. Now, I will be frank and say that when I was racing, going to college, just starting out in life as an adult, I did not have the money to put into a coach. And it's kind of ironic, because I decided that what I needed to do was to learn everything I could about coaching and physiology and all that, and I ended up sinking tons of my collegiate um, funds into pursuing that as a career. So now I've got all the smarts. I definitely paid for it. But I think the point is that I didn't hire a coach for a reason, a pain point that I couldn't overcome. So I wanted to talk about that first, being that what is the difference for athletes that are coached versus those who are self-coached? Well, for me, it was a big trade-off in progression. How do I want to phrase that? It was a big trade-off where I gave up a faster progression in order to gain more knowledge. I had to make the time for education. So, and there was a point where I did decide that I did not want to pursue professional cycling. I was getting too old. I wanted to pursue a physiology degree. I uprooted my whole life in Utah to jump out here to Colorado and try to finish that. But I gave up in those years prior to that point time where I could have been smarter in my training. My training would have been better, and my tactics I would have known. So there, yeah, I definitely gave up that. Now that's just my perspective. But generally speaking, if you're going to be self-coached, you're going to be sinking a lot of time into figuring out what it means to train correctly. You're going to be watching countless hours of YouTube videos, listening to countless hours of coaching podcasts like this one. And you just, to be frank, you're just not going to get all the knowledge that you needed. I mean, it took me years of full-time school to pick up on, maybe a half or quarter of what other people get too. So and they give up their athletic ambitions to pursue a doctorate degree or even a master's degree, right? I sat next to those guys. They work their tail ends off in the pursuit of education, not in the pursuit of athletic progression. Okay? So that's the first difference, is that your time is going to be really it's going to have to be really well balanced and really well designed, or how do I want to phrase that? It's going to have to be really efficient. Your time's going to have to be very efficient to learn. The next difference I find between coach and self-coach is that you're going to have to teach yourself tactics as a self-coach versus having an efficient winning strategy from someone who's already compiled that knowledge, is able to tell you what your strengths are and when you can make the best effort, what the strategy is you need to look for. Races don't play out the same way, and every week is different, and every week it seems like there's a new winner, unless there's someone really coming up through the Cat 5-4-3s. Once you hit the 2s, it's anybody's game. Even the 3s, sometimes it's anybody's game. So, you could always go and look at how other people won a race on YouTube, but that's not the same as you making your own tactics. Everyone has to go through that, but two heads are better than one. And having watched many races, having been in many races, you can start to compile how the game works as a coach and share that with your clients. So again, this is a very time-sensitive thing. You only have so many racing weeks, so you might as well make the most of it, especially if you have targeted goal races. So you need to be able to think outside of your own perspective, and that's something that the self-coached athletes won't have, because you're finding knowledge, you're learning, which is true, you're thinking outside of your own perspective there, but what you're doing is building your perspective. You're not acting in that perspective. So I think that's another point for hiring a coach. Let wisdom be your guide on that one. That when it comes to your progression, when it comes to your tactics for winning, you're going to need a devil's advocate. You're going to need someone to push against. You're going to need someone who can support you in recognizing your own strengths and weaknesses and helping you maximize your efforts in order to progress athletically. Now, post-COVID, we get it. We tried launching Trademark just before COVID. It was kind of tough to do that just because there were so many people in the game, and I was just starting with a blended family, and we tried to get it up. And then next thing we know, COVID hits, and there was no cycling season. So this year we tried again to find more clients and find people that needed this kind of help. And so economic times were definitely tough. Good news is it looks like we're doing pretty all right, that we've adapted pretty well and transitioned pretty well through this whole economic rough patch. Doesn't mean that people aren't still being cautious and stingy with their spending. But here's some thoughts on why I think you still need a coach. Chances are that a coach has various options that can be affordable. So for example, we have a tiered approach to our one-on-one training. We also have some other options I'll get to later. But the point is you can get in with us for as little as like $100 a month. And if you need to consume more of my time and you want me to really focus on your training and monitoring you as an athlete, then it can go up $300 or $400. Some of the top coaches I've seen are charging over $500. So I try to keep with the about the economic or the kind of median pricing for coaches. But that also doesn't mean that you can't call me up and we can work out a deal that is affordable. I've spent all this time and a lot of money into making sure that my knowledge is there for you. And so, I'd rather have you on than to not have you on as a client. So feel free to call me. I'm not offended if you say, "Hey, Tyler, I know it's $100 starting, but can we do 75?" We might have a discussion about what makes 100 and what the difference would be between that and 75. I'm just using that as an example. So if you wanted one of the higher tiers, we could do that. But the thing is don't be afraid to approach me. I'm really hard to offend. And so the chances are your coach has some options that can be affordable during economically tough times. For young aspiring racers, a coach would actually be pretty critical for timely progression. So it's a good time to say, "Hey, Mom and Dad, can you help me get a coach? I'll pay for half, and my coach is willing to tailor my training to juggle school, work, and training." All right. So that hurdle can easily be overcome. But I look at the state of cycling right now, and what we really need are young racers. And I definitely want to work with you guys. So if there's a way to work with parents, work with collegiate racers maybe even who are struggling financially, those are my first 2 points for economic struggles. But there is an urgency for those young aspiring racers. Your youth only lasts so long. If you're not on a professional team by the time you're 23, 24, 25, you're done. It's going to be very hard to find anyone who'd let you on unless you've really got some accolades under your belt. So it's not to say it's impossible, but it's very, very tough. So there's definitely some urgency for young aspiring racers. Okay, now the last thing is, I know it's economically tough, but look, one of the best things that I've seen in the science for people who are surviving through COVID are those who are in good cardiorespiratory health, that their fitness is higher. Okay, so this is becoming a more of a survival thing these days. I would rather spend the money to stay healthy and stay out of the hospital than ever need to go in the first place. So when economic times are tough, we can make it affordable, we can focus on the youth and build up cycling for the future. And there's no better time than a pandemic to maintain your health. You should hire a coach if you have these following pain points. Fitness progression is hindered from a lack of physiologic knowledge. Okay, this is going back to the very first point I was making under the first section. Okay, look, if you are trying to progress and do it quickly and efficiently, you're going to need someone who has already done the studying, who already has the knowledge to put together that training program and get you on track. The science is always changing. Trust me, even since leaving college, I make it a point to stay up on the latest literature. There are some things that are baseline, what do you want to call it? Things that don't change. There are like laws to this, but there's also principles that we're trying out. For example, when marginal gains theory became a thing, there were new experimental things that all added up. They might not have made a big difference, but all added up, they did. So really knowing and understanding what those are, and knowing and understanding what efficiency is from a scientific level, and how that plugs in to your strategy and tactics, that could be hindering you as well. Okay, like we need to be able to see what your critical power is. We need to know what your repeatability is. We can test for that. We can train for that. We can improve upon that. And you can overcome the pain points that are keeping you from winning a race in terms of tactics and strategy. We can write it all down. We can run through it. We can visualize it. We can move forward. But you need to have a coach that can help you along that path. Okay. Third pain point here. Your mindset needs to be corrected to a positive, abundant perspective about winning against your opponents and reaching difficult goals. Okay, I'm going to say that I just recorded a really good podcast with a really good friend, and she helped me overcome this very pain point. She does hypnotherapy. So even if I can't help you myself, I have a network that I can plug you into. But we do want to work on this point. And this is kind of why I'm addressing basic life skills in these initial podcasts, is because we want to be able to have a healthy mental outlook and emotional understanding of what we're getting into. It's very difficult to win. Chances are against you to win. But in these moments that are painful at the end of the race, when you're really trying to win, perhaps you're scared to sprint. We could flip that perspective around and say, but what if I win? But what if I stay focused? But what if I come out in front? What if everything goes according to plan? We need to believe those things that we tell ourselves that are positive. And one thing I'm learning firsthand is that even I need a coach to correct my thinking. All right. You will be fine without a coach if you possess these following characteristics. But you should still hire a coach because this is what I'm going into in this section, okay? All right, you'll be fine if you have a championship mentality already built. If you can maintain motivation on your own, have continued challenges in your face over and over, and still come out alright, and you can monitor your overreaching in training, you'll be alright. However, if you still hire a coach, you can become excellent You'll have someone in your corner already that believes in you, that wants you to succeed, that brings out that positivity. You can maintain your motivation. Facing those challenges over and over, you're not alone, and we can monitor what those challenges do and adjust training to optimize the outcome, which also feeds into that third point. We can monitor overreach and overtraining and prevent you from doing that. It's like popping popcorn. And I love this. This was posted to Scratch Labs a few weeks ago. But if you undercook your popcorn, you have too many kernels left. If you overcook your popcorn burns. You want that optimal amount of time and heat in the microwave, right? Where you get all the popcorn kernels popped with nothing burning. So that's why you need a coach. You've got to build and build upon your championship mentality. Okay. You'll be fine without a coach if you possess extensive knowledge of training principles and physiology. But you still should hire a coach because you need the brain bandwidth to concentrate on your training, on your performance, what you're doing physically. Okay? And you should still hire a coach to get a second perspective. When you're self-coach, you're focusing just on your own perspective of what you're building your own knowledge and what you believe pertains to you. But it might not all pertain to you, and there might be, from the perspective of having other clients and having worked with other people, there might be more to that perspective. There might be more within that literature of knowledge that can be brought to benefit you. You need to think outside of yourself. So going back to that first section again, you got to be able to think outside of yourself, but you need a second perspective. You'll be fine if you've got the knowledge. You'll be better if you can build upon it with a coach. Okay. You'll be fine if you prefer to be a couch potato and your training is inconsistent. But you will improve when you hire a coach because accountability improves and accelerates the rate of performance. Okay? We want to maximize that pursuit and guarantee you accountability alone will improve your performance quicker than any other method out there. Whether it be old school periodization, whether it be block training, whatever you can put yourself through, if you can return to someone and report on that, and that feedback can be given, you've created a positive feedback loop and you can build upon it. Alright, so how can Trademark Endurance help? We are creating options for those who are self-coached, because we understand it. I've been there, so that I'm building these courses and classes so that self-coached athletes have options to benefit from a coach. Likewise, of course, I've always had programs and a tiered approach for personal training and personal coaching, that one-on-one thing, right? So, of course, I'm here for athletes who want to be coached. So you can go to my website, sign up right away. You can find it under our packages page or under our store, and you'll be able to sign up for any of these things I'm about to tell you about as well. So the first thing is we're building Evergreen Courses currently. Currently taking pre-registration for it. And Evergreen Courses are the ones where you'll see a coach, they'll put on an online course, they've recorded a whole bunch of videos, and we'll do a weekly check-in that's a live meeting, and we'll go over principles that you understand, principles you don't understand, what successes have you seen, what have you not, and we'll be able to improve upon it. And you'll have a group of other participants there to lean on and help support you as well, and you support them. So again, a positive feedback loop that'll help us progress. Second, we're working on indoor cycling classes. I've mutated my garage into an indoor cycling studio to put out classes. So that is in the works, but they are coming up. And I really believe that indoor cycling, and we're going to talk about this more when we get to the springtime as well, that indoor cycling can really improve your progress. They're very specific, very controlled workouts, and you can get controlled results from it. So even during the summer, it might be wise to even take on an indoor cycling course. So these classes are still coming, but they are in the works. The other thing in the works is that we have some publications, some coaching books that are going to be coming out. First one's working on our full spectrum training method, what that looks like and how you can apply it as a self-coach athlete. Of course, I'd love you to take this is either an Evergreen course or one-on-one with me. We can work through the whole philosophy, and it builds your entire life, not just your physical performance, because they're all interconnected, and we really want to discover how they're interconnected and how we can build the highest pinnacle that we can. All right, so of course the podcast and our YouTube channel is just kind of broadcasting the same thing at the moment. But this podcast, you can always come back. I'm always willing to help, and I'll give you what I can give you that would be useful for self-coaching. I don't like that a lot of coaching podcasts out there are almost like physiology courses, or assume that you have a knowledge of physiology like they do. You need something that you can go out and apply practically. Really apply what is relevant to you, really. Like GCN, okay, sure, there's little hints and tips here, but are they really giving you the whole picture? Because they're being so brief to get out a quick YouTube video. But if you're tuning into some coaches or coaching groups podcast, is it really at your level? And that's my goal here, is to give you something that's on your level. Because you might be a lawyer, that's a very smart person. You might be in manufacturing and construction. You might be an entrepreneur. I mean, you could be you could be working in a number of vocations. But a physiologist, in spite of all the knowledge, still needs to be able to simplify it so that even a child could understand it. Not to say that all these other vocations are childish. I'm just saying, like, imagine trying to teach a child. And if a child could get their head wrapped around a physiological principle, then their understanding will be solid enough to progress. So that's kind of my goal, is that the adults who are smart, the children who need something simple as well, you can both understand it. Now, I love to dive deep, but at least for the sake of this podcast, we're into inspiring as many people as we can. We want you to ride the bike. So you're always welcome to tune in here, and I will help. We do have some training camps for each part of the season in the works as well. I've had some really good ideas to collaborate with some friends. I'd love to start putting out registration for California, for southern Utah, and for even Wyoming coming up. There's some races that are local that would be fun to get involved with, but even outside of that, I'd love to be able to help you and your team, your club, boost their season, whether it be a preseason camp or a mid-season camp or however it's going to be. I want to help you boost your season, but also give you something that's fun that you can relax and unwind and have a little bit of a vacation with too. Kind of ease that life side of your training and boost the side of your physical training. All right, and if you've already hired a coach for 2022, not to worry. You're still welcome to join any of the prior mentioned courses and classes and camps. But I also want to mention that Trademark Endurance has had, the entire time we've been open, a full line of supplements. Okay, now these are really great. Just to be brief, we think about it this way. Depending on what season, what mesocycle you're in, what part of your training program you're in, the closer you get to the peak, the more you need to perform. If you're in a recovery week, then the more you need to recover. If you're somewhere in between, how do you know what supplements are effective? How do you know which ones to use? So what we've done is we've color-coded the labels of our supplements to reflect whether you need to recover. Those are very cool colors, like purple, right? Purple helps with recovery. Blue helps you get into your day-to-day. Same with green, you can build your endurance, and then so on and so forth. Yeah, you've got these different building phases of your training, so you'll have building supplements to help you boost that training. So these aren't ones that are passively thought of. We've gone through a manufacturer that's done all the science for them, and really engineered the supplement to be healthy and good for you. Likewise, when I selected this line, I wanted to make sure that they were effective supplements, that they weren't just something that I was going to give you for the sake of selling you something. Like if you take BCAAs, you're going to have benefit from those. Those are actually have some science behind them to be effective. My pre-workout go-go juice is really effective, man, and it's it's super good. I can't say enough good about it. And our multivitamin even actually does something. You actually have more energy through the day, and you actually do feel balanced. That's why we called it balance. It balances out your body's needs. So if your coach is telling you, hey, we're going to do a build session for a few weeks, and we're going to stick in the weight room, we've already color-coded it so that you know, hey, this is what we're building, so I need something yellow or orange to go into the gym and come away with maximum benefit. And of course, you can always call me if you want some second opinion on the training and what supplements you should take. So you can find those all over at Trademark Endurance as well in our store. And they're all color-coded in order, red, orange, yellow, so on and so forth, right? Well, that's my summary of why you should hire a coach and when you should not hire one. Good luck to those who don't. But we'll talk with you soon. Best wishes.